Open Systems, Financial Inclusion, Stellar Development Foundation, Treasury response. Why share this? Well, this was posted on March 3rd. It didn't get a lot of coverage. Not a lot of people were talking about it, and I decided to read more about it and so on. So I want to share this, and I'll come out of the frame just to kind of make it bigger for you guys. And I do think it's a big deal. So it says Stellar Development Foundation recently submitted a letter in response to a request for information on financial inclusion. Guys, this is big. Anything mentioned in regards to the United States government and so on is worth paying attention to. So this request for information on financial inclusion, which is called RFI, issued by the United States Department of Treasury. This response blends our work on financial access with our continued efforts to advocate for open systems. By combining these two focus areas, SDF aims to inform Treasury's development of a national strategy for financial inclusion from a technological perspective. Is this of them elaborating a little bit more on what they currently done with that whole thing, that blueprint I was talking about from about a month ago? I think so. But it says it emphasizes that tools to further financial access and inclusion can benefit from open source and transparent technology. Is this, again, back to the whole thing of banned? A little bit, but hear me out. In our response, we address two key points: the importance of access when defining financial inclusion and how to leverage technology to advance financial inclusion efforts. It goes down to this part. It talks about that they propose that consumers should have access to free or low-cost products that support everyday financial transactions in today's cashless economy. Again, why I mention this? Well, remember how Danelle was talking about it shouldn't cost money to send money, right? I think that's another thing in reference. But this time, instead of just stating it, you're going to reference the United States Department of Treasury. I mean, this is like literally like an open letter to them. Okay. So I think they're really getting real with this. They talk about leveraging digital wallets, blockchain tech, address, how they can address traditional barriers, all this stuff, minimal balances. But this part, again, back to the whole topic of what we talked about in the other video, and that is smart contracts, self-executing code, digital ledgers. It says this innovation enables consumers to access financial services without relying on legacy actors that have historically excluded certain communities. They talk about how this is a crucial role to recognize open source. Basically, they want devs to come in and build on it, right? And if anything, this is a win for the ecosystem. But to get something like the United States government behind it, why would they want to do that? Again, they understand the bigger picture. It's mass adoption. You need to get the government behind this if we're ever going to get to real, true mass adoption. Whether people are like, no, we don't need the government behind it because we want to keep it decentralized and so on. I understand that point of view. But from the point of view of what they're trying to solve here, this kind of makes sense. So listen to this. They talk about this whole thing of back what I was mentioning with the other outline with band. Says transparency is particularly important given the sensitive nature of financial transactions, potential new trust gaps, so on and so forth, right? Unverified code written behind closed doors. Behind closed doors. Why mention that? Don't overthink it. Because if you have unverified code, you're going to have malicious actors who did really bad things with the backdoor type method of what they wrote in code. Perfect example is your Do Kwons. Another great example is, for instance, what happened with scam, bankman fraud, and FTX and so on. So my key takeaway for you guys is this: recognizing what was mentioned there. That whole submitted letter in response for this request for information, financial inclusion. At the end of the day, this letter to the Treasury Department, and why it's so significant for Stellar. Why is it significant for you, me, and everybody else is tuning in tonight? There's just retail holders not understanding maybe what the bigger picture is. So listen to this. This is my own key takeaway of what I think is going to happen and why it's so significant. So there's at least, let me see on my notes, 3 key things about why this is significant. Hear me out. Let me know your thoughts too. I always like hearing you guys' thoughts, especially when you type in the comments. So I do feel as though that this letter does influence policy landscape, okay? And what I mean by that is you already seen it. You already seen it before. Danelle Dixon going to these congressional hearings. She does that for a reason. It's not because she was summoned. It's also because she needs to educate those who just don't know what we know, okay? So policy landscape and how, whether it's Democrats, Republicans, and so on, how they're influenced. It's understanding, like, it's not just one narrative of mainstream, but it's the narrative of, hey, I'm part of blockchain, distributed ledger technologies. Here's what I'm sharing, and here's why I'm sharing it. Because it's where we're going to in the future as a society and a whole of this shift, this radical shift to the new monetary system. So, Stellar Development Foundation, they position themselves as a thought leader. Hear me out, advocating for open and accessible financial systems. This aligns with the Treasury's goals, yes, the United States Treasury Department's goals of financial inclusion, potentially influencing future regulations and shaping the overall digital asset landscape. And when we get more into this outline, you're going to hear more about, tokenization, RWA, real world assets, and so on, and how Stellar comes into the mix. This whole thing of highlighting Stellar's potential, you have to keep in mind the letter, and when you get into the whole thing, because it's kind of long, but the letter, the significance about it, and why I feel as though a lot of people kind of skipped over it, you have to keep in mind that a lot of people just want to pay attention to, well, it's the partnerships, and we want to see a big pump, and the technical analysis of why all this stuff is doing what it's doing. But again, the United States Treasury Department, like, everybody should be looking more into that, should they not? So that letter showcased Stellar's technological capabilities in addressing financial inclusion challenges. And if you want to see the letter, by the way, go to stellar.org/blog/policy, because some of you guys do ask, info in regards to all of that, And my thing is, like, I just wanted to, let you know some of the significance about it. So it's understanding the bigger picture. So yes, that letter shows the technological capabilities, in addressing financial inclusion. It emphasizes its open source nature, low cost, yeah, you better believe low cost, transactions, and ability to bypass traditional barriers. Stellar Development Foundation presents Stellar as a viable solution for building inclusive financial infrastructure. What if, by providing this to the United States Department of Treasury, it literally kind of future-proofs you for potential risks and problems that are going to happen for the near future? Is this protecting or building, upon something in which we have a solution in regards to a dollar crash? You better believe it. Say what you want. Some people have pointed out, well, if there's a dollar crash, wouldn't it affect, for instance, the stable coins and so on? Yeah, because they're pegged to the dollar. I get that. But being able to say, look, there are going to be a lot of people, they're going to come out of the traditional system and realize they need to get into something that they can trust more, and for and do things for a lot cheaper than the traditional models, or not your MoneyGrams and so on, but for instance, your Western Unions, right? You need to have a more low cost transaction platform, and it has to be a viable solution, like we mentioned, for building inclusive financial infrastructure. Again, don't get twisted, it's just the infrastructure. So it does create a sense of marketing position for Stellar. Hear me out on this. This outreach does in fact strengthen Stellar's position as a player focused on social impact alongside technological innovation. There's so much of this going on, but especially with Stellar lately. It can attract potential partners, more of these collaborations. We just gave the example in the other video in regards to Band, right? And it's just that, collaborations interested in leveraging blockchain for financial inclusion initiatives. Band is the perfect example of that. Whether it's Band with Stellar, or how about this, guys, Hedera with what? Pith. It's understanding inclusion and what one project can do to complement the other. All right. What are some of the key takeaways in regards to this? Not so much in regards to, the United States Department of Treasury, but what about Stellar, right? Maybe that's why we're all here. Great question. 3 key things I want to get into in that regard. Increased visibility. Engagement, for instance, with policymakers does in fact enhance Stellar's public image, and also, of course, some of that recognition within the financial sector. That's a major, major win. It's also going to allow for more adoption. But what about mass adoption? Well, successful advocacy efforts, I should say, could lead to the integration of Stellar's tech in government-backed or sponsored financial inclusion programs driving wider adoption. I think we've already seen that. I mean, the whole thing with Franklin Templeton, the whole thing, for instance, of some of these other key things, writing a white paper, not an XLM white paper, but an actual white paper for the blueprint for regulations, and all those references that we saw about a month ago in that video that outline in that PDF of the significance of proper regulations and have it written by Stellar is absolutely huge, because it makes you understand that, look, you get the Treasury on board, then it's not a case of, well, what do the Democrats in office think, or what do the Republicans in the office think? Because once they understand that the Treasury is behind the tech and what Stellar is looking to do, then they can both reach across, as the saying goes, party lines and be like, look, this is a no-brainer. This makes sense. Let's just get this done. And I think, honestly, that'll be the next big step for all of us moving forward. That's a win, right? Even if you're not into Stellar, a win for something like that, that's a huge win for anybody that's into this. Overall, guys, it's like this. This initiative signifies a strategic move by the Stellar Development Foundation to leverage its technology for social good while simultaneously advocating policies, right? There's lots of different policies that favor open and accessible financial systems for numerous reasons that we outlined and all the other examples of what we talked about on this live show tonight. This approach can lead to increased visibility, potential adoption, and inclusion programs. Think about how many different inclusion programs there are out there. We've been talking about a lot of these. It's not just, for instance, some of the ones that we mentioned tonight in regards to band. But this approach in itself, the reason why I'm bringing it to you guys, is because I feel as though that it can lead to increased visibility, and that would potentially lead to more mass adoption and inclusion programs even further out that we maybe have never even heard of, or just kind of emerged out of nowhere. It's a win because it creates a sense of a stronger position for Stellar in the long run. For most of us that understand Stellar, we're into this thing for the long game. We're not complaining about, Stellar's not up. It's down. It's down 2 cents. Whoop-de-doo. Consider it a blessing in disguise if you haven't hit your goals. My key thing for all of us should be to recognize what's going on with Stellar and recognize that when we talk about the one, when it comes to cryptocurrency, when we were first introduced to the concept of cryptocurrency, we probably introduced Bitcoin. But when we think of cryptocurrency, again, take out the crypto part of it, take into the whole notion of just currency. You're literally thinking of what Stellar is looking to do when you really look at it. Can I use this to buy groceries? Can I use this to send money to somebody overseas? Is it a better form of money transfer? And when you look more into it and you get a yeses to all those questions, then it does come back to the original conversation of whoever introduced cryptocurrency to you. The answer is not Bitcoin, as in BTC. The answer would be Stellar because of its utility. When do we get to that mass adoption? I don't have the answer to that, but I will research with you guys things like ISO. I will research things with you guys like the quantum financial system, and I will research with you guys what Stellar is doing with the United States government and these blueprints and the connections and why they all matter. Your key takeaway in conclusion is just these two words: financial inclusion. Some of you guys ask what cold storage solution I use. I use this, and it is the Dept wallet. All right. I also, of course, have a ledger like this. All right. You can get a discount basically from going into the affiliate link, which is in all the live video descriptions and recorded and so on. And for the yahoos that are out there, they're like, This is just a shield, and we'll fix pointing this out, and it's a great point. Were you aware that you don't necessarily get a discount link just going straight to the site? No, you actually have to go through a platform like this. So how cool is that? I don't think anybody's complaining about that. But anyway, use the link, get a discount. There's another one here. If you're the type of person you want to get one for you and your significant other, you could get 2 of them. They actually have another promotion, which is this, and I think this is cool. You can get an all-in-one card wallet plus backup card package. Interesting. I thought that was cool. And again, one of the main key things I like about the Dept wallet is not having to do the red tape of jumping through all the hoops for XDC and the custom folder. I mean, Edward Vincent can vouch on that. Some of you guys can too as well in regards to Ledger. That was a pain in the butt. You don't have that problem. You literally open up your phone, it's on your app, track everything that's going on, right? And saying goes, not your keys, not your crypto. You know the drill. Check it all out though if you wish to do so. It is truly the cold storage solution that I use for the most part. There's still some on Ledger that I kind of split it up on it and so on. So it is what it is. But if I have preference over one, I'm going with this one. A lot easier to use and so on. And some people, even to this day, still ask me which one to use.